Alright, so a bit different from usual. Um, I'm playing a deck that I'm calling Hardgore Alice, named after this character I hear, who's a magical girl. Magical girl name is Hardgore Alice. She's from an anime from 2016 called the name has just escaped my mind. Wow, I'm so good at this. Magical Girl Raising Project. Anyway, basically she's Deadpool. So, well, she doesn't like break the fourth wall, but okay, I should actually probably alter the audio here. Volume down, yes. Okay, so anyway, that's where the zombies come from. I was testing pure Brandish maidens, and I realized that they had a problem where sometimes they could be pretty fragile, and in the late game, they didn't do as well as I am used to. That I usually play slower decks. And the deck has a lot of one-ofs, and when you use multi-roll, the cards reset to the field by multi-roll's effect get banished when they leave the field. So that can be really inconvenient. Omega puts them back into your deck, or back into the graveyard, so they can be reset by multi-roll or added back to your hand with Kagari. So these first two replays are going to be mirror match. This first opponent here they're playing kind of an interesting build. The second one is the Trickstar build of Brandish Maidens, which of course is, the meta deck, the build that takes most of the spots at tournaments currently. Anyway, I have infinite transients, or infinite impermanence to negate, so my opponent's turn just goes ahead and ends. And it comes back to my turn, so Kagari will give me engage, Omega banishes. So the Omega just is really solid in this deck. At first I was just like, it's kind of a silly thing, but I'll try it while I'm, thinking of ideas, and it just worked and stuck. So Omega is really strong in the mirror match because you can take cards out of your opponent's hand, get their Widow Anchor out when they draw it, and get hand traps out of their hand, so that you aren't getting hit with your hand traps. You aren't getting hit with hand traps, and you're allowed to make your plays, but then you're allowed to take your opponent's cards out of their hand and make your plays, of course, and prevent them from making their plays. But also, you'll see here with Lost Wind that Omega, if I just leave it on the field, can continuously add Lost Wind back to the graveyard, and then my opponent's playing Brandish Maidens, so they are going to go into the extra deck. The deck doesn't have a play where they don't go into the extra deck, really, so they have to, which means I'm guaranteed my Lost Wind that I can add back every turn with Omega. So, there I just take their Shizuku with Widow Anchor, so that my Shizuku becomes stronger than their Kagari. They decide not to continue the attack, go into Hayate. At first I thought this was a little weird, but then I realized the reason was that when I attack their Hayate, they get to send a spell card, which means that they have one more spell card in their graveyard, which is a really important thing, and also the reason that I'm playing Reasoning. In the mirror match, it's even by one more spell card, you want to have more spells in your graveyard than your opponent does, just because your monsters are the same base stats, and you want that stat change even if it's just by 100 to actually win the game. So my opponent doing that has actually made it so that this Kagari would be bigger. I have infinite transients though, and infinite impermanence, and am able to, of course, reset the Lost Wind again, and then use Shark Cannon to make sure they have no Rays in their graveyard, because that's the thing in the mirror match. It's really important to keep Rays out of your opponent's graveyard, and then versus Trickstars, you want to be keeping Trickstars out of their graveyard. So the Shark Cannon is important for keeping the Rays out of there, and also when you're playing against Trickstars to banish their Trickstar monsters that would be revived by reincarnation, thereby making reincarnation useless. So my opponent goes for Kaguri. I have infinite impermanence, so I can negate that, and they don't get engaged, which means they have to entirely rely on their Trickstar from their Trickstar engine from there on in that turn. So they do get reincarnation off of Candina and one other set card. So I just go ahead and put all my cards on the board. I don't want to get hit with reincarnation for any more than I have to. So Candina is going to be burning me for 200 every time I activate a spell card. I'm going to go ahead and use Hayate to put another spell card in my graveyard just to reach that 3 spell card count to get as much advantage off of engage as possible. And also having Hayate, again, it will allow me to go into Omega because Hayate does give me a zone on my own board for the extra deck. So I'm able to go into Omega, banish it so that I can then activate, add Ray to my hand. My opponent uses the reincarnation, takes that out of my hand. I draw Jamming Wave, which lets me clear their board. And then from there, I can go into Kaguri, use the effect, get back into Engage, I add Afterburner, and draw into Widow Anchor. I take 200, and then that there is just that my opponent waited until the time hit 0, and they didn't do anything. They did nothing. And I just had to get win off of time because my opponent was just salty. I hate when that happens. But anyway, I did wait. So, next up we're going to go for this one because I do something worth talking about in this game. Alright. So my opponent here is playing dinosaurs. Specifically, Skull Dread Turbo dinosaurs. And I've opened with an okay hand. I say okay just because it isn't Hornet Bit Solitaire. But it actually is a really good hand. Because I do have Tune Table in it, as well as Engage, which means I can add anything off of Engage. And also we'll get to draw a card, which is actually going to be really important, because I just said made this not the best hand. I'm going to go ahead and go through the Tune Tables, and then activate Reasoning. My opponent calls 4, and I reveal Mizuki. Mizuki's now in my graveyard. And I add Ray to hand, activate Engage, to add multi-roll, and draw... no, sorry, wrong game. There's another game where I drew the Solitaire off of it and was able to just have the best hand from there. It actually happens fairly often. This deck's ridiculously consistent, so you might think, oh, that specific 2-card combo, but yeah, I play 3 of both of them, and also it can be done with the Ray. So not in the same turn, but yeah. And then there are other ways into Omega as well, with Toon Cyber Dragons and the hand traps being level 3 tuners. Well, the one Toon Cyber Dragon, and those being level 3 tuners, with the ability to take your opponent's level 4 or 5 monsters and then use them with your Unizombie or hand trap tuners. You can make Omega that way as well. Because I'm not going to play some gimmick thing, but I've only got one thing to go into. Especially not in a deck that's good as this one. I'm not going to mess that up. Anyway, so I use Ray to attack, go into Hayate, tag out into Hayate, attack directly, use the effect to get that one more spell card in the graveyard, use Widow Anchor, take the Saryuja, and distribute it off for multi-roll. And I just continue to gain a ridiculous amount of advantage, have too much advantage, and discard a Ray during end phase. And my opponent has Shadow Fusion, I negate it. Anyway, the thing I wanted to show this replay for was taking the Ulti Conductor Tyranno. Where's that? Here it is. Taking the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and distributing it off with multi-roll, because that's pretty much the out to things that big. Aside from Afterburner, which obviously not always, you don't always want to really use Afterburner. Sometimes it's better to take it, get the damage in, and then also be able to distribute it in main phase too. So, should I show one more? Let's see, which one would be good? No, I could, but no. Let's go into the deck list here. So, first up, one Sphere Mode. just one, because this is pretty much like if I end up against Goki. Because I'm playing online also, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro meta is really weird. You end up against just ridiculous things that you wouldn't see at tournament, like, well, that you will just lose to. Like, the deck does just lose to some dumb strategies. And now, if you're playing a match, this really wouldn't matter because those dumb strategies are inconsistent. Chaos Max, for an example. If your opponent drops a Chaos Max, I mean, outs to it. Find them. Where are they? Attack directly with Hayate. And hope you can win that way. Because, you're not getting over Chaos Max. And, other problem decks, we've got, Super Heavy Samurai. If your opponent's playing Super Heavy Samurai, well, hope you have infinite impermanence, because, and that you can, I mean, you just have to win as quickly as possible if they're playing Super Heavies, because that deck counters this heavily. Didn't intend to pun there, but yeah, anyway, Super Heavy Samurais counter this, just Dark Claw. Your opponent throws a Dark Claw on the board and you can't play. Although maybe, because you can Widow Anchor the Dark Claw. So there's that. So you don't entirely lose to it. And if you have Widow Anchor, you can win against Super Heavies or any of the other problem decks, but yeah, anyway, there are situations, and mostly to break Gokis. One Mizuki and one Unizombie, because these are the cards you do not want to draw. You want them in your deck. You do not want to draw them. 3 of Ray, 3 of Solitaire, and then 3 of Hornet Bit. These are your monsters that you're actually wanting to summon, that you actually want to open with. You want to open with Solitaire and Hornet Bit, or open with Ray. If you open with Unizombie or Mizuki, it's not as bad as opening with Garnet, but it sucks. 2 of Ghost Bell, 2 of Ash Blossom, and 2 of Ghost Ogre. Toon Cyber Dragon, because it lets you go into Mega Fleet, deal with Goki boards, deal with Mirror Match boards. 3 Foolish Burial Goods lets you send Lost Wind or any of your spell cards. Mainly you're wanting to send Engage, so that you can then go into Kaguri and get Engage back and get multi-roll, and continue on your plays from there. So yeah, 3 of Toon Table, 3 of Engage, 1 of Reasoning. This card I'm not completely sold on Reasoning, but as I think I explained during the game earlier, it does send a bunch of spell cards to your graveyard. You're getting a monster on your board, you can use those for your X deck. You can tribute off things you don't need with multi-roll to clear up your zones. So that's pretty much safe. But yeah, again, in the mirror match, number of spells in grave is just really, really important, and Reasoning helps a lot to that. Reinforcements to the army, because you really want to be opening with Ray. So, 1 Jamming Wave and 1 Afterburner, 2 Twin Twisters. I really would rather not be playing Twin Twister at all, but it does get more spells in the grave, and heavy backer decks are what you lose to in this. So 1 Shark Cannon. I didn't think this card was as good as it is when I first picked up this deck, but yeah, this is really good. I still don't think you should play more than 1. Maybe side deck Shark Cannon, but it's not really necessary, especially with the Omega going on in my build. 3 of Hornet Bit, as I said, 3 Widow Anchor. This card's just really strong. Multi-roll, only 1. I can see why some people might think you want to play 2 of them, but really, it's not necessary. It's going to cause consistency problems. Area 0, this card's not even that good. I can count the number of times it's been useful to me on one hand. I might take it out. I don't know. It can be good, but when I was playing this deck as just pure Brandish mains, and it was net decked of the second place at which one was it? It was a YCS. I don't know. But anyways, I was net decked to that, and I realized I was using airspace or Area 0, airspace Area 0. then because I was getting more bad hands. I was getting more hands that I just couldn't use. But as far as this build, that has only happened to me really once, and that's because my opponent had hand traps also. I just couldn't play around it. I mean, yeah. So, and also I played a game against Super Heavy Samurai, and I didn't get Widow Anchor. I just didn't have a Widow Anchor available. I drew real bad. Anyway, so moving on from there, Zombie World, this card's much better than Area Zero in this build. You can bring back Omega with Mizuki because of it, or you can use Mizuki to bring back Kaguri in the super late game when your extra deck is limited, so that you can summon Kaguri, get Engage, Shark Cannon, Widow Anchor, whatever, back from your graveyard, and then you can link with Kaguri so that you have no monsters in your main monster zones. You can then use your cards, and so that you can continue playing in the super late game. That's really, really good. Because as I said, that was a problem this deck had with being fragile. Your spells would get banished. You can put them back with Omega. You would have a low number of Brandish mains left in your extra deck. All right, well, summon them with Mizuki. So there you go, problem solved. Also, again, if your opponent's playing a deck like Monarchs where they have to tribute, neither player can tribute except for zombies. So solved. Everything that comes with zombie. If your opponent's requiring warriors, if your opponent's playing Gokis and you go first, they cannot make a Zold. If your opponent's playing heroes, they can't make a Zold. Any warrior deck, you can't make a Zold. If your opponent's playing a spellcaster deck, then their monsters become zombies instead of spellcasters, so they can't activate a lot of their cards like Wonder Wand. That can be really strong. Anyway, Infinite Impermanence, 2 of these, that's just the standard way to go with it. And then 1 Lost Wind, as you've seen, you can recycle that over and over again. 2 of Hayate, this card's really good, gives you a zone to put Omega on the board, and also can attack directly, boost your spell count and grave, especially useful early game and late game. Not so much in the mid game, but there you go. You got 2 Hayates, 1 for early game, 1 for late game, and then 3 Kaguri, 3 Shizuku. At first I was only playing 2 Shizuku, but I realized again this deck, if you are running out of Brandish mains in your extra deck, it's a problem. I was playing more Ghost Ogre more Ghost Reaper targets at first, but I decided to put in a 3rd Shizuku and 2nd Hayate instead of Ghost Reaper targets. Isolde, you can make this. I don't really know why you would do it, but it's a Ghost Reaper target. Cerberus, I have made this a couple times. It's real useful just to finish games off. Joymare Phoenix, again, this is more of a Ghost Reaper target, but you can do it. More of a Ghost Reaper target, but you can do it. And I don't think you should ever summon Tulispania in this deck, but you can. I mean, if you're playing against perhaps Altergeists, then you'd want to go for Tulispania. Mizuki plus Zombie World will also give you the ability to summon things you don't really care about banishing, just resummon it with Solitaire, and then Solitaire gets banished. So I'm just saying that's pretty cool. Omega I've talked about a lot, and then Mega Fleet. If you're you can make Mega Fleet using Toon Cyber Dragon, so that'll break extra links, because if you get extra linked in this deck, it's a huge problem. But yeah, that breaks extra links, and also just the mirror match. It can be useful in the mirror match as well. So there you go. As far as the side deck, 2nd of Sphere Mode in case of Goki. Joel and Lockbirds, these were in the main deck at first, however the online meta is pretty weird, so Joel wasn't always good. Buster Dragon and Helix are just more Ghost Reaper targets. Designator from the Grave, I'm not really sure what I'd side out for this, so I don't know. Because I'm playing Ghost Bell, so I feel like sliding this in would just cause inconsistencies. I don't know. It's a really strong card though, so I want to play it. I'm not quite sure where it should go. Obviously, if I'm playing against something heavily graveyard based, then I could take out Area Zero, I could take out Reasoning. But, I'm also going to I have other side deck also to put in. And so, Heavy Dust Storms, this is for Altergeists, because I won't let you play spells sometimes. Struggling Battles, I probably want to cut Struggling Battle to 2 so that I can put in a 3rd Ghost Reaper. But, yeah, anyway, that's just what I'm thinking about. So, there's this deck. I may upload more gameplay of this deck later on because I am having fun with it. I do like it a lot. Anyway, till next time.